Well, a very good evening to all our viewers. Thank you for joining us on the Round Table. I'm Yvonne Katsande. As we continue to look at matters that affect Africa, issues pertaining to Africa, looking at them in depth and analysing them. And of course, as usual, I have my very interesting panel who will help me talk about our topics today, Africa and investment, and of course the Nigeria NGO bill that has got Africans wagging their tongues as to what really is going on. So I'll start again with the introductions, and I particularly love to start with Pastor Titi.
Thank you very much.
Who sits right on my immediate right hand. Pastor Titi Adun, thank you for joining us this evening. And on my far right, we've got Michael, who's also an analyst on African issues. And just next to me as well, here on my left side, we have TK, and on my far left is Progress, also analyst on African issues. Now, thank you all for joining us on this program as we continue to look at the Africa and investment issue, and of course, like I did mention earlier on, the Nigerian NGO bill, which of course I don't think only affects Nigeria. That is the Nigeria NGO bill. I'll just read here quickly what I have put together on what is happening in Nigeria. The House of Representatives is considering passing a non-governmental organization, that is the NGO regulation bill, sponsored by the Deputy Majority Leader of the House, Honorable Umar Buba Jibril. And that is according to the bill, the board will have the powers to license all the NGOs without the license of the board, nor the NGO can operate. The board can refuse renewal for apparently no reason. Now let's start by helping our viewers in knowing what an NGO is. What do they represent? What do they stand for? Who is an NGO?
Plainly put, NGO stands for a non-governmental organization. So these are they're almost like, in essence, some of them are not for profit as well. So they are organizations where people have come out as in foundations and the like, who with their funds seek to make a change in society, be it for healthcare, be it for education, culture and the like. And it's also most NGOs as well, they have a not only in achieving a certain change in society, but also giving a certain mindset. Some of the organizations, what they do is to change the way certain people think within a society by the input that they've made with the funds. As in, if they're doing education, they're giving a certain type of education, a certain thinking in that society. So yeah, that's what
in the Nigerian system. Now, I don't know about other African countries, but I know that NGOs are and I think also it happens that's also how it functions in South Africa. Churches, mosques, religious bodies, they don't have a special registration. They register as NGOs.
Okay.
In Nigeria, they are called incorporated trusteeship. So an NGO registers as an incorporated trusteeship. A church registers as an incorporated trusteeship. So by the time you're having an NGO bill, you are actually going to be regulating churches, religious bodies, charities, foundations, and all the like. But the interesting thing in this Nigerian situation is that there's already an organization called the Corporate Affairs Commission that registers NGOs, that gives them corporate personality. So this is a duplication of the powers of the Corporate Affairs Corporate Affairs Commission. So the issue here is who is supposed to do what? If I've registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission and already have my certification, I'm already a corporate entity, I'm already in existence, and the NGO commission is set in place. What happens to my certificate from the CAC?
That's actually a good question. Do they disregard it? Do they continue with it? What happens here? And what really is the meaning of this bill? Be it positive or negative, what is the effect on the existing NGOs and the ones that also still want to register their NGOs?
Pastor Titi came from a very, very legal perspective, and sincerely it interests me, right? Because that's a very, very legal perspective to it. But there is a social and a human rights perspective to it as well, right? Because most from my experience, I have been a part of a foundational member of at least 2 or 3 NGOs. It starts from a cause.
Yes.
We say we don't have enough trees in this place. Let's plant more trees. Then we move around for like 3 months. Then we're like, how about we just formalize it? That's how NGOs
and
basically start. Yeah. So once you regulate ability of people to respond to things in their environment, it is worse than a military rule.
Yeah.
Okay, we're just going to watch a clip here of what other Nigerians had to say about this bill coming into action. Let's have a look.
Is set for an act of the establishment of the NGO's Regulatory Commission for the supervision, coordination and monitoring of the non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations, etc. in Nigeria and for related matter. These lawmakers talked more of the scope of the act.
We feel that civil societies need to be coordinated. There's a need for them to, not everybody speaking from different sides, need to come together and work. And there's a lot. There are too many of them, and if you follow the speaker's speech, you see where he talked about some of them not doing what they're supposed to do, and now they're being used for conduits. They need to be regulated, so we know exactly what everybody is doing. Nobody wants to say, don't do this, don't do that. You understand, because that's what they are, civil societies. But we don't want a situation where people use them for the wrong reasons.
The bill does not in any way attempt to deprive civil society organizations from participating in the civil space. It does not attempt to stifle the civil space. And so I don't understand what constitutes a threat to democracy and an attempt to do what will actually create an enabling environment for organizations to operate.
For the NGOs, CSOs and others, this excuse of the National Assembly is not tenable. They say the said bill is an attempt to cage their activities, thereby restricting them from doing the civil duties as expected.
This bill, if passed as it is going to limit the ability of civil society organizations to do what they do best, which is support governance, help society, support the welfare of citizens, because you are going to be putting so much bottlenecks that organizations will struggle and spend all the time trying to meet while the work suffers. You can imagine that there's a flood. I cannot respond to the flood as an organization because you need to get a permission somewhere. Before we go for the main public hearing, we are hoping we can let the promoters of this bill know that it's very unpopular, it is unconstitutional, it is going to be shrinking the space for civil society participation, and it's going to hamper development in the long run.
For the people in National Assembly, as far as they care, what they just want to do is to reduce the kind of engagement that they get from the civil society. They don't want to see some of the work that the civil society, the way the civil society hold them accountable. So this whole essence of this bill is actually to reduce that accountability role that the civil society is doing, and I think that is why we need to oppose it. So it is for me, it is based on misconception. So maybe there's a need for us to clarify what does civil society stand for and what their power. Why do they want to have new laws when there are already existing laws? And those are the questions we need to ask them.
The role of civil society organization and NGOs in complementing government policies as a major structure of organized society outside the government can never be quantified. It is, however, believed that this roundtable discussion would help both stakeholders arrive at a concession that could be leveraged upon.
Well, we had the comments coming up from people in Nigeria actually expressing their concern that it's unconstitutional, it's not supportive of the civil society, it's unpopular, people don't want it, and people don't want it. What is your take on that?
Well, I have a problem when government starts playing the role of watchdogs when they're supposed to engage their citizens. And, looking at the history of NGOs and African governments, you will see that even though there is a right cause, the end result is that the government actually have power that is unnecessary, and it's not good for our society. For example, we have seen that in South Sudan, we've seen that in Zimbabwe, where people are actually dying of hunger, and the government says you have to come through us, you have to tell us what you're going to do, what do you have and stuff. We can't have a situation where You know, when we need emergency services, the government is the one that plays arbiter in that, and we have laws that are supposed to actually play final arbiter. And then when you look at the context of this NGO bill, especially in Nigeria, maybe they are supposed to just tackle the real problem. If it's a religious threat that is there, you're supposed to just tackle that. If it's insurgents that they are looking into, they're supposed to just tackle that instead of just blanketing every NGO that is there and then control them. Why do I say so? Because remember, we have Red Cross that has been there for a long time. We have ICRS. We have so many of them, World Vision. They've been doing quite astounding work. The government has not had any problems with the NGOs. Why now? If there is a cause,
is this
why
the
can't
way
we
maybe
just
for the
address
government
for the
to raise funds? Do you think maybe this is the way government is trying to also get some funds in?
No.
It can be because already to register with the CAC, you already pay.
So don't they want more then? If
Then
they're saying you have
they want
to.
more, they should just raise the registration fees with the CAC.
Yeah.
Okay, let's play the advocate. So it doesn't sound like we just say they're all bad, right? Why would they be thinking of doing it? So, like, our views is also trying to let's try to paint this picture and try as much as possible to won't even rationalize it. I mean, because it's draconian. It doesn't sound like it's from that's a law coming from a democracy. It sounds like something coming from the roots of authoritarianism. What are they trying to fight in the first place? Who are they trying to clamp on? For instance, I can give an example. There's an NGO bill, version of an NGO bill in Hungary. And the president, Orbán Viktor, came out and said he's against the George Soros-funded NGO because they're trying to take him down. So we all know why he's trying to do an NGO bill. He has set his mind. He's trying to take on George Soros funded. Now, there's a version of an NGO bill in the Israeli parliament, and they're saying breaking the silence. That's the name of the NGO. So the right wingers say breaking the silence has been funded by Arab countries and leftist European countries to try to reduce the power of the IDF. So when they are talking about the Israeli Defense Forces.
I know, but I'm just because the viewers. So
Okay, cool. So when they say they are raising an NGO bill, we know where they are coming from. My point is, where is this coming from?
Where is it
You have to
originating
tell us
from?
so that we can say, yeah, we know what you're trying to fight. Why don't you fight it this way and leave those who are not affected?
When I see some of the provisions of this NGO bill, the first thought that comes to my mind, the present president of Nigeria, President Buhari, he was a military head of state in 1984. And the first thought that comes to me is there's one of the first decrees he promulgated when he became the head of state. It was called Decree 4. Now, Decree 4 stated that any news report that contained an inaccuracy, the news organization is fined, the editor must go to jail, and the writer must go to jail. So there was a newspaper, one of the major newspapers in Nigeria called The Guardian. They published a list of appointments the government was going to make. They broke the news of 8 appointments. Or so, there were about 8 things that the government charged them with. Now, when it was broken, in order for them to be able to indict these gentlemen, the government changed one.
Okay. Then it became inaccurate.
So there we go.
These two gentlemen, the editor was Ndukai Rabo, and the writer of the story was Tunde Thompson. They were sent to jail for about 2 years.
Oh, wow.
When there was a new government, when they were overthrown, the first decree that was proscribed was Decree 4. Now, this NGO bill is a repackaging of the Decree 4. You have a commission where the commission can, not even the board of the commission, the executive secretary, the CEO of the commission, for personal reasons, which he doesn't have to tell you, he can proscribe you. For personal reasons, which doesn't have to tell you, you can be refused registration. So the CSC can register you, but the NGO Commission can refuse. It doesn't make sense. For reasons best known to him. Why would you refuse an NGO? I mean, if an NGO has satisfied, in law, at least when we were in law school, we were advised that when setting up an organization, whether it's a limited liability company, whether it's a foundation, you have what we call the omnibus clause. The omnibus clause says that you can do other activities in order to fulfill your aims and objects. Now, because with the passage of time, the new technology, new methods arise. That just takes care of it, because so that the ways you put in your books, you can
do other things.
So now we just watched that clip where one of the members of the House says that some people are doing what they were not supposed to do. How can you tell me what I'm not supposed to? How can you tell me I'm going to carry out my, for example, distribution of Bibles? We have an organization in Christ Embassy that distributes Bibles. In it, we said we didn't put. It's not stated there that we'll go to prisons. But we operate under the omnibus clause that makes us go to prisons because we're distributing anywhere. So you can say, oh, but there are no prisons in your place, in your books.
So you go to jail.
So you can't continue.
But this law comes at a time where, maybe not the best time, I must say, for federal lawmakers. We have a president who's missing in action in Nigeria. And then this law is passed. Already there is talk that if the president is going to be missing for 90 days, then he should either retire or just step down.
But let's remember, that's not illegal. The Constitution is silent on
the number of days.
On the number of days. The president can be absent for his full 4-year tenure.
Okay, but the bill coming in at a time like this, what does this say about?
A lot of with the bill coming out now, you just pointed out something very important. A lot of the agitation has been people that have NGOs, civil society groups. There's presently a sitting that's been going on at the Unity Fountain in Abuja. Is a coalition of civil society groups. Now, maybe we should put this also into perspective of history. This government came in on the back of NGOs.
Exactly. True. Perfect.
NGOs sponsored them. NGOs mobilized the whole populace. So they know what NGOs can do. So that's why they want to regulate them, because elections are coming. 2 years' time. In fact, the election cycle is just beginning to kick in. The opposition PDP, they are just started putting their house in order because of a Supreme Court judgment. So the person who's supposed to be the chairman of the PDP has been approved by the Supreme Court. So the PDP is getting its house in order.
So we can actually say it's politically motivated?
Definitely.
But no, I don't. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. Like,
whether you see it or not, it is.
Let me tell you why. Like I said, back in like 4 or 5 months, before the crisis in Zaria, right? I was chatting with a Nigerian who was he wanted to get my perspective of the crisis. And I was giving him the perspective like I got it from the Iranian TV, right? And I was telling him the drive of the Shiites, what happened immediately after the signing in of the nuclear deal. Now, this looks unrelated, but you see things start happening. I'm talking about the nuclear deal, US, Iran, and the P5+1. And the Sunnis saw the rise of the Shiites, right? And the Shiite also, so this is our time. According to the words of the supreme leader in Iran, this is our time to take over the world. The time of the Mahdi is coming. Now, this is religious. So they started funneling monies to NGOs around the world. According to the Israeli press, there was a formation of a Shiite group in Spain. that were busted with links to Hezbollah. So it's not only Nigeria that was seeing spring ups of these groups. So different governments have been trying to clamp down on these.
So like
so I'm seeing
Zakzaki, this El Zakzaki movement is a Shiite movement in Nigeria.
And Pastor, let me push it further. Then after 2 months after the deal was signed, all Sunnis governments had a meeting in Egypt, in Cairo. And Buhari was there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when Buhari went for that meeting, I told this guy, I said, watch out. This is not Boko Haram versus Nigeria. You're going to see Shiites versus Sunnis, right? And they're going to do everything to clamp down. That was when the Sunnis, the Gulf countries, now formed a coalition, anti-terrorism coalition. They formed an army called anti-terrorism, and they started going from country to country, clamping down on this kind of, mind you, in Bahrain, worse than what has happened in Nigeria is happening there. They're literally taking Sunnis, they call them NGOs as well, taking them and putting them in jail, giving them life sentence, Shiites. And they have beheaded two Shiite clerics in Saudi Arabia. So I saw this from a religious perspective, right? From the meeting Buhari attended, to the OIC, to the anti-Shiite, the Sunnis fight, right from the Middle East. When we started saying it, and if you tuned into Iranian TV then, it was always on front press. Nigeria will burn if they don't leave him. Nigeria will, it was a threat. I was like, this is somebody's threatening civil war who is not even in the country. So I saw Buhari's move as purely instigated from that meeting in Egypt, because I followed that timeline. And that is why I'm telling you that I'm not seeing a political angle to it. Can it be used for politics later on? Perfectly, yes. But from the roots, I see a religious angle to it.
So should it stand?
No, hell no, it shouldn't stand. Because like, you can say it can be for a cause now that we don't even consider as good, and become for more devilish causes. This is killing free speech.
Because one would argue that politics in Africa is also affected by tribalism.
And religion.
And religion, that's it. It's about who's ruling now, who's ruling next. So obviously it links to what you were saying.
But I would like to disagree with Mike on that. When you look at, aside from Nigeria, because you see, you're putting a strong cause maybe on the religious side in Nigeria. When you look at sub-Saharan Africa, because you see, the Islamic fundamentalists, they are trying to permeate only the Sahel region, which is like the top part of it. What about sub-Saharan Africa? If you look at sub-Saharan Africa, you would also see a similar pattern of clamping down of NGOs. And this is solely for political reasons. And because you see, like what the clip was alluding to, the civil liberties, the freedom of association, the freedom of gathering and information dissemination, they're actually kept when you start having such kind of laws. We have a very similar law, which is called POSA in Zimbabwe. And the law was used to make sure that nobody could actually have a proper election campaign, because
any public gathering. I can attest to it because
by the time you get to 9, you need to seek police clearance for you to gather.
Yes, I can attest to it. Let me just tell you what happened.
Too many.
I'm telling you, I can attest to it. Let me just tell you.
You should organize their rallies as cell groups.
Let me.
Nine.
Make it 8.
We have another one, which is a media bill again, which is called MISA. By virtue of that, the media will actually be able to censor what goes out, what goes in, and you find out you are actually curtailed out of the election race at whatever point, at whatever cost, and it's low. So
I can attest to it because 2 weeks ago, last month, I experienced that. I had to literally leave Harare, Zimbabwe, in a hurry, in a Fiji, because we were field reporting, and we put our camera there with our camera people and me as the field reporter. We had literally 5 people that came. Eventually, it became a gathering, people reporting in the high-density areas. We wanted to see what's going on. We were arrested. We were actually arrested, yes. We were arrested, and we were almost charged with the highest charge. I had to, yes, because they said you're a political journalist. You went into the suburbs. You started recording. Who gave you the permission to do that? I said, I thought maybe it's, you're allowed as media, because in South Africa, I can put my camera there and start recording, the police won't even bother me.
All right, and Michael,
But I think just also you mentioned that you see it as a religious
roots of
the roots of it as a religious. But anything that involves people by definition would go into a political thing, because if it involves certain groupings, either on a religious grouping or any association, just by virtue of that, it will become political, because people will then say, no, but this is hurting us in such and such a way. Can we change it? So the politicians, I'm thinking the sponsors of this legislation, they'll come with it, whether the origin is in a religious point of view, but they would want to, it's a way of also clearing up something else, another problem that they could have had within the population, to say so and so, such and such NGO has said this in my constituency and I don't like it.
But do you think it's going to hold? This bill, will it be passed? Is it going to hold? Is it going to be
increasingly vibrant in communication as relates to national issues? People are getting, Nigerian populace. Yeah, they are getting more interactive, especially on social media. I mean, ever since the time, what's the name of this? Pastor Tunde Bakari got men. He boxed people from Lagos to Abuja to partake in a rally. Then there was Occupy Nigeria, which he was a strong stakeholder. The interaction on issues.
But the interesting thing is that he's been quiet.
Yes, and that is why I
think he's not saying anything.
Will it hold? I think if we get the discussion to that level, it will not hold.
Because
it will definitely fade away.
For some reason, this bill also, it's not so well known.
That is a problem.
Not so well known.
People don't understand what really is going on.
Most people heard about it, and they don't. And the ones I've heard don't even look at the ramifications and the implications of it. That because I'm looking at it two ways. He is looking at it from although ICC, you cannot separate the religions from the politics.
Yeah. Sure.
Because if Iran is not just trying to spread their religion, but they're spreading their politics as well.
Sure.
You know, and so a lot of people will look at it that, oh, we don't want this, like in Nigeria, we don't want these Muslim Iranian guys, but they won't be looking at it that law is also going to affect the CLO, which is a civil liberties organization. It's going to affect a lot of civil society groups. It's even going to affect the Red Cross. It's going to affect the Red Crescent. It's going to affect the Inner City Mission for children. It's going to affect Bible for All Nations. It's going to affect so many other organizations. I mean, if I give money for the sponsorship of Bibles, if I'm going to give XYZ millions of equivalent of rands, I don't want, and the government is going to be told, I don't want someone in the government to start giving me some
direction,
trouble because I, an individual, gave that kind of money. It's like what happened in the United States when Creflo was told to bring his partners, and he said, no, I'm not going to give you the list of my partners. What do you do with the list of my partners?
Sure.
It's not legal by law.
It's like an overreach.
It's an overreach. So this law is an overreach, and it must not stand. The implications of it are too dangerous. And as Michael said, it might look innocent today.
Yes.
But 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, there's this gentleman in Nigeria called Audu Makori. He owns a record label, and he tweeted a picture. These Fulani headsmen were attacking villages, and his village, and there was a school that was said to have been attacked, and he tweeted a photograph, not knowing that the photographs that he tweeted were not real. That were photographs from something else, from another killing which was unrelated to this. So later, when he found out, he tweeted that he's apologizing for those photographs and information he gave, that it was not right. It was wrong information. And the government now arrested him. and said they're going to prosecute him. First of all, they brought an old law that was propagated during the colonial times. When the colonial people were trying to break trade unions, the power of trade unions, they took that law that was still in the law books, but it had not been used. That was what they first
and
used
revived it and used it.
And you know what? I was about to say this, Michael.
I will have to give you literally 30 seconds because we are over time and we have to close.
All right.
30 seconds.
In 30 seconds, the people of Nigeria and the people of Africa should actually be very wary of, you know, draconian laws that are pulled from old law books. And they should be wary of this tactic. It's an old tactics of political movement where they, you know, they hit you softly and then eventually you have a heavy blow. And then by that time you have a heavy blow, you can't recover from it.
Well,
So
thank you very much. We have to end this discussion. And to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us on the Roundtable. Remember, you can join in the conversation as well on our King's Chat handle. That is #the Roundtable. Pastor Titi said, thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to host you. And obviously, I always enjoy the debates going on. But thank you for watching this evening. It's goodbye from us.